Now, the Thabo Bester and Nandipha Magudumana great escape of all time has been widely reported in the media, and there's not much that has been said, about the victims that are associated to this incredible story. I'm really talking about the families of the deceased persons allegedly stolen by Nandipha Magudumana as part of this grand plan. And one such family is the Mpolo family, whose relative has been identified as being that of a person who was burned in Thabo Bester's cell on the day that Thabo Bester escaped. I mean, some of the questions that really arise from this are, who does this family turn to for the truth about what really happened to their son? And joining us this morning is renowned private investigator Mike Bolhayes, who is also a former policeman, who is going to shed some light into this saga. Mike, a very good morning. Thank you so much for your time. Welcome to the morning show.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the opportunity.
Mike, I mean, let's start here, right? The family of the man whose body was used in Thabo Bester's escape, Katlego, is now seeking answers about his death. They're, of course, refuting the reports by the police that he collapsed in town and was then taken to hospital. We do know that there is an autopsy report that showed that he died due to blunt force trauma to the head, and that he was already dead before the fire that occurred in the cell. When we speak of blunt force trauma, Mike, really this is something that is brought about by a forceful impact. So it's either someone who's going to fall from a height or they are attacked. One of the questions then is, how did this body get to the cell? And when you're looking at some of the details just surrounding how Katlego died, what would you say happened exactly?
It is our opinion that he was in the morgue like any other person that would die. There would be files and documentation that would support this. There will be a pathology report. There will be police officers involved. There would be officers involved from the morgue. And from there, the body was stolen. The reason why I'm saying that is all these people that are involved will have to be addressed by the specialized police unit that is presently investigating the whole Thabo saga. The whole Thabo investigation should include any and everybody involved since day one. Also since the day of escape and everybody involved there, and then since after the escape until he was captured and brought back to South Africa. That includes whether it was somebody assisted with technology, digital information, bodies, transport, lodging, finances, vehicles, etc., etc. There should be no stone not unturned. Every single person involved should be questioned, and if they were part and parcel of this great escape, this daring escape, this brilliant escape, the police must make, with the authorities, the prosecutors, a decision whether they're going to prosecute these people or not. Coming back to the morgue, when you remove a body there, it is a crime in itself. When you in any way fiddle with a dead person, in any way, it is a crime. When you transport a dead person, it is a crime. And even taking a dead person and then filling it with paraffin and setting it alight in order to stage a suicide is a crime in itself. So there's a lot of crimes that has been committed by people because the body by itself cannot move to the cell. And all those who assisted, even those who transported, carried it inside, looked the other way, all of them should be held accountable.
And Mike, when we're looking at this particular case and we're looking at this family who, like a lot of us, are looking for answers, what is the likelihood of this family really getting the answers that they need and them being able to get closure? I mean, in one of your interviews, you speak about how, probably 20% of the police force, actually does the work, meaning that 80% of everybody else does not do the work. So what is the likelihood of this family actually getting the answers and the closure that they want?
In this particular case, I think there's a possibility, because we once again thank the media for keeping this absolutely hot and on the charts on a daily basis. But the family themselves must seek assistance by a lawyer, and the state must be held accountable. And the state will obviously hold those who have been involved, as I've explained, accountable, and then a claim against the Minister of Police or the government can be brought. So my advice to the family is to seek assistance, and also to make sure that they are constantly involved with the authorities doing this investigation. And if the authorities does not do the investigation, as I have explained here, they have got you guys, the media, they have got guys like ourselves, and lawyers that they can go to. But that's what I would highly suggest. Touching on the information pertaining the corruption in the police, it is in fact so. Unfortunately, about 80% of the police is corrupt. It does not mean they take necessarily money for a docket. It means they cannot protect and serve, they cannot do the work, and they're not qualified. My biggest concern forward is qualified policemen, a qualified judge. Remember, judges can also be bought and corrupted.
Absolutely.
And qualified prosecutors.
And I mean, in a country like ours, where the rate of crime is so high, but the conviction rate is very low, how can we then as South Africans, how can the families trust that this case is actually going to go very far, and that all the people, like you said, that everybody who's involved needs to face the full might of the law? How do we as South Africans trust that this is actually going to happen? If, like what it seems like in this particular case, that when you have money, you can buy absolutely anyone and everything.
Yes, in the Thabo case, there's quite a few things that plays a role. I don't think Thabo can buy his way out of prison, but I think he can still, with contacts and those that he has been involved, can make some move. In other words, when he was caught, I'm sure there was a lot of policemen who would rather have him dead. I'm sure that there was a lot of people from the DCS that would want him dead, and those who were involved with him that would rather have him never found. Because now the opportunity is there to extract information from him, and he can do one or two, three things. He can give it full cooperation and expose absolutely everybody. Two, he can give part information, and three, he can give no information with those that he was involved with, and they also would give no information, can make it very, very difficult up ahead. So in the case of the dead bodies, those families must definitely seek out assistance by higher authorities and keep it fresh and alive. And unfortunately, that is why there are so many private investigators, groups like ourselves, that is available there nowadays, due to the fact that the police does not protect and serve, doesn't have the infrastructure, the knowledge and the know-how, and the ability, capable, willing and able attitude. And they come to organizations like ourselves to make sure that it's done, and then obviously the media as well. And that is the route that I suggest.
We know, for instance, from the information that we're getting from the Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, that Thabo Bester did not even have an ID number because he did not have a birth certificate. So this essentially sounds like somebody who in the system does not exist. How was he able to get so much wealth and have so much influence? But also one of the questions that I've been asking myself is, how was he able to be arrested with no ID number and there were no red flags that were raised? What happens to things like criminal records in this instance?
Yeah, that's a loaded question, but let's start with the fact that he wasn't registered anywhere. I think that played a very big role in his earlier young teen years, where he realized that, you know, he can commit crime and can get away with it because he's on no system. But Thabo is an intelligent man. Let me tell you, this is a brilliant It's unfortunate that he turned out criminal, but he could have been a brilliant anything in life, but he turned to crime. And he obviously had a lot of connections from a young age, and due to connections, he made money. And making money is the two things, as I've mentioned before, money and connections is what brings you where you are today, whether you're a good person or whether you're a very bad criminal. And he turns out to be one of the worst that we've seen in our country, because he gave commands like, bring me a dead body and fill it with paraffin and set it alight, and then take me out, and then hide me here and do this, that, and the other. So he's an instruction giver, and he had a lot of people operating on his behalf, which shows that he has extreme form of manipulation and influence, and most probably also with that intimidation. Because if you can do these things, the first thing that would go through your mind if he were to give you a command is, what would happen if I don't do it? But there's a lot of these situations where people are incorrectly registered or not registered, or at home affairs. There's a lot of these problems. I've seen names on IDs that would make your hair stand on end. Sure. I've seen and I've heard of stories of documentation that just doesn't closely reflect the person that's holding that documentation. So there has been a problem, and it causes serious problems when the police are investigating cases. But remember, Thabo was found guilty on murder and rape, so they did have a docket. My question is, why wasn't this information we're discussing now not then brought in and raised, and why wasn't it dealt with? Because it is a crime to live in this country without being fully, totally identified.
Absolutely.
And then they had to move back and see what did he do with all those passports, because he has many, and IDs and fake information.
And Mike, just shortly before we close, because we have run out of time and there's so many questions that we'd like to ask, do you think this is the end for Thabo Bester and Dr. Nandipha Magudumana?
I'm quite sure that they won't get out of jail. There's two reasons. One, they are extremely closely watched due to the fact that they could be murdered. Remember, I'm telling you now, those who are involved with them wants them dead. They are on that level. Secondly, and that includes authorities, because they've got the most to lose. Secondly, this case, due to the media, has created such a debacle that it's 24/7 everywhere. So the authorities is going to make very sure that there's no further egg on their face, and they're going to closely watch them and make sure that there is no such thing as an escape. So I don't think they'll get out of jail. My concern once again is there an absolute authoritative, non-corrupt judge in place for this case that knows this kind of cases and can deal with it? Is there a prosecutor, prosecutors that can deal with this case thoroughly? And is there an investigation team that can thoroughly investigate this whole case in its totality, bring it 100% to court, and bring everybody involved to book?
Mike Borges, thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate it, and we hope to have you back to share more of your knowledge and expertise as this case really progresses, because there are so many questions around it. Thank you so much for your time. Private investigator Mike Borges joining us here on The Morning Show.